Good morning. You're listening to Central Wisconsin's 24-hour information station, AM 1320 WFHR. It's time now for the Morning Magazine, brought to you by Comfort Air Heating, Cooling, Plumbing. Now, with the Morning Magazine, here's Carl Hilke.
And good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's show on AM 1320 and also on the web at WFHR.com. We also welcome our friends at RCCA Media, and you can watch our show with Wood County Board Chairman Lance Pliml on River City's Community Access Media. You can tune into Cable Channel 3 on Solaris or 985 on Charter, or go on web at rccamedia.org. Watch the Morning Magazine with our interview with Lance Pliml all month on RCCA Media. With that, we welcome the chairman of the board of the Wood County Board, Lance Pliml. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Carl. Thanks for having me. Hey, when are they going to syndicate this puppy so I can...
I know. I know. I want to do that. Hey, let's make some money off of this
Around the
gig.
clock, every station.
Right. Well, yes, I'll get your reaction first. The governor was in town, and we're going to be talking with our folks from ODC in Part 2 to make a special announcement over at Riverview Medical Center yesterday. And did you get a chance to visit with the governor and all?
I did, Carl. I had a few minutes to speak to him privately before they started. He was met by a few protesters outside the hospital out there, and I made that comment to him, and he said he wouldn't feel at home if we didn't have a few out there. Kind of a tongue-in-cheek comment, but it's good to have the governor. I don't care what political affiliation you have. When you have the governor, or a U.S. congressman in town, it always helps because it usually means they're bringing us money or dollars or programs for training. And one of the things that we have seen in our area is that we actually have a number of jobs available. We just don't have people trained for those positions, or we don't train people to the opportunities that do exist. And having a governor in town so he recognizes faces and knows names when we call down there is extremely helpful. And I think that because of the work we've done in this town, whether it's the mayors, both out of Wisconsin Rapids and Marshfield, whether it's the county themselves, I think we have their ear when we make a phone call. So it was good to see him. Glad he was here, and the news for Riverview Hospital Association was very good. And
the governor announced it has been selected as one of the new project search sites, which is designed to help provide opportunities for students with disabilities to learn skills that can help them succeed in the workforce. And Riverview is teaming up with Opportunity Development Centers. And like I said, in Part 2 of today's show, we'll be talking a little bit about that. But
I think you have about 7 of those sites around the state, or they're looking to develop about 7. And those opportunities, in the system that we have today, the best thing to do is to be able to create opportunities, for people who might not otherwise have those. That cradle-to-grave mentality of support can often be offset and make lives much better if we can train and make those opportunities available. And this is one of those opportunities. And because of the work they've done, this is a rare opportunity, and I really want to see us take advantage of it. It will only benefit us in the long run.
From the County Boards Association perspective, or from Wood County's perspective, your thoughts on the budget that the governor has presented to the legislature?
It's still shaking out. There's things in it I guess I'm grateful for. There's other things that most people would say they don't like. At the end of the day, after the Joint Finance Committee gets together, both houses of the legislature, and they decide and debate and talk about those issues, I'm sure you'll see some changes to that budget. But from a pure county perspective, shared revenues were left intact. So, we don't see any more dollars, but we see an equal number of dollars. We didn't see any big additional mandates other than maybe countywide assessment coming down, which would be a possibility. And that's one that I'm not sure is going to stay in the budget, because I don't know how we would handle that from a staffing standpoint, especially with a very short time frame to be able to do that. The education aspect of that budget, obviously the UW component and those representatives are not happy right now. They're talking a $300 million cut. I think to put that in perspective, though, that's 1.25% each of 2 years for about a 2.5% reduction in their overall budget. $300 million is a lot of money, but put in perspective, I think if you owned your own business, you'd say, yeah, we've had to do that, corral those costs and get things under control. I don't think you'll actually see a cut that large at the end of the day when you're all said and done. Technical schools, which we rely on here, probably come out of this somewhat unscathed, but at the end of the day, all in all, from a county perspective, probably as good as we had hoped for. Let me put it that way. We always like to see more dollars. We are an administrative arm of state government. They ask us to provide programs. They ask them to be provided at a high level. My only concern always is that they fund us at the level appropriate for the program they want delivered.
Yeah, well, that's something we've talked about before, or they put on a new mandate. We want you to do this plus this now, and you're going to get the same amount of money.
Yeah, and one of those is one of the proposals in the budget, and we didn't see this coming. We didn't see it as a county coming. We didn't see it as a counties association coming in. I serve an officer in that organization, was the countywide assessment. And I can tell you there's real need to have consistent countywide assessment in many of the counties in this state because there's vast differences in assessed values, and then those people in those particular townships pay significantly lesser amount of taxes as they contribute towards schools and other things that we fund. That being said, I don't think establishing county assessors is necessarily the best way to do that. I think there's additional ways to train the existing people that you have licensed to do that. There might be ways within that county assessors association to address some of those issues. I can just tell you, today, I don't think I'd be speaking out of turn if I said we in Wood County and probably no other counties are really set to go that route right now.
What about in terms of the governor's welfare reform proposals, namely to drug test anybody getting government assistance? There's been some concerns from some local units of government because it says we're going to provide free drug treatment and everything else for people who are found to have a problem. Well, that usually means it's going to be coming down to the local officials to administer that. Who's going to be paying for this quote-unquote free treatment if that happens? And there's just been some concern about that. Who's going to be picking up the tab?
Well, that goes to a much larger discussion, and it's something that you and I have discussed as we've sat here before the microphones go on from time to time. We have a system in our country and certainly in our state that in some cases has made, and I'll be blunt, has made welfare or other government programs a career. Mm-hmm. And a number of those people and a number of those issues involve the use or abuse of drugs and alcohol. So I think the thought in that whole myriad of compromises is that at the end of the day, it's cheaper to correct those problems and get those people working again, or getting them off the public assistance train. And at the end of the day, there'll be more dollars to go around. I'm not sure that's true, and I'm not sure who's going to handle it in the meantime. But it's a bold initiative, And the one thing we know is that what we're doing isn't working. When you have 77,000 jobs available in this state, basically, they're not being filled for a number of reasons, but one of those is lack of training, lack of qualified workers, and then you would not believe how many people that are interviewed that can't pass, the drug screens, which is just amazing. So I guess as a contributor to that, to that whole pot of money as a taxpayer, whether it be property taxes or income tax, I'd like to know that the money I contribute is going to people who really need it and that it isn't, self-inflicted, so to speak. And if there's a way to more economically have them resolve those issues, I guess I'd be willing to try it. And I think with any of those, you say, let's give it a shot. Even if it's short-term, even if it's in a small test group, I'm not opposed to that, I guess. Okay,
well, that's the big concern. I think everybody goes, yes, if we have people that have mental health issues, drug issues, and that are making them not capable to function normal society, and they're on government assistance constantly. If we can help them and let them create their own independent life and live the same life you and I live, that's a great thing. But it always comes down to the dollars.
It comes down to dollars at the end of the day. Yeah, what's the cost? Is it economically feasible? And realistically, most of the people out there listening saying, I want to contribute my dollars for infrastructure, for education, for those things that make my life better. And if there are people out there that make poor choices, I don't want to subsidize them. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty simple thought that I think most people listening to this show probably agree with.
I tend to agree with you on that. The
flip side of that is our society has decided that, no one is untreated at all. That we tend to pick up those costs in various ways. And so if there's a better way to resolve that issue, to get those people back as contributing members of society, that maybe we should try that. And like I said, that's a larger process that we talk about.
But it comes down to the administrative, because all these big issues.
We talk about this all the time. I sit on the Local Government Institute board, and that is basically a think tank that tries to deliberate these types of issues. And one of the things we were talking about the other day was transportation funding and how that fits. And we all know that there's not enough dollars to fix that.
Thank you for bringing that up, because that's my next issue I'm going to talk to you about.
And one of the points I made at that meeting was we can continue to ask for more dollars for transportation. We continue to throw dollars that direction. But until we look at that whole pot of money and how much money is being spent on some of those social programs that haven't seen results, we're never going to have enough money because we keep expanding those programs. And that's where sometimes I would like to see, I'll call it block grant money or a basket of money, come to a local unit of government, a county in this particular instance, and say, you take that money and you ask your directors of your human services department or your health departments or your sheriff's department to take those dollars and use them in the most beneficial way for the people that you serve. What happens is, we just talked about, we have these mandates that say you will treat this very narrow area and you'll throw tons of dollars at it, and at the end of the day, we don't necessarily see results because the people monitoring those results are not close to the problem. Mm-hmm. I think we do a much better job at the local level of dispersing that money where it's really needed. Those social issues are going to need to be addressed, and we spend 50% of our budget currently, in that realm, and so any idea to make that better or to streamline that process or to maybe be able to take some of those dollars and allocate them towards those things that most people would find more important. And when we talk to the people, public safety is number one, Carl. Right. When you walk out the door, all you got to do is watch the news, and I don't care if it's Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, right, wherever. People are terrified to walk out their door. In the United States, you can pretty much walk out the door and feel pretty safe. So public safety is number one. You got to be able to walk out the door and feel safe. Two basically comes down to those infrastructure issues. Roads, bridges, communication infrastructure. Education is certainly at the top of that list. And providing money to other people who aren't making an effort becomes problematic. We all know that there is a certain part or section of our society that really does need help. There are mental or physical challenges. There are things that just happen in everyday life. I don't think anybody would deny service to a veteran who's been injured in the war. I think they do have a problem, though, later when you come back and you tie drug or alcohol use into some of that without maybe another underlying problem. So we'll keep working on those, and we'll keep hammering away.
What about transportation funding in this budget, and how will it affect Wood County and its plans for updating its infrastructure? We're borrowing some money to address some needs now because the financing, it's a good opportunity to do so, and we have some roads and bridges that need some serious work. So how does this budget help or hinder that?
This will be a great contradiction. I hate to see the state continue to borrow money to make improvements in any way whatsoever. Yet we at the county level did that this year. And we did it with my support, and that's because we looked at our real needs, which said if we put, in effect, a Band-Aid on or fix some of the problems that we currently have, we will save more dollars in the long run. I personally try to approach every problem from this perspective. If it was my driveway or my road, would I fix it Or do I wait till that old adage, pay me now or pay me later?
Right.
And what's the most economical way to do it? And when we look at bond rates right now and the opportunities to make some of those improvements, most of those roads and that infrastructure was done in the 50s and 60s, which didn't take into account the kind of traffic, either volume or weights that we have today. So if we have the opportunity to fix that now while bond rates are, frankly, pretty close to zero, it's probably our best opportunity. The other side of that is I hate borrowing money to do projects. But the thought at the county level has been, because we don't print money, we would rather leave the money in your pocket until we absolutely need it than take more of those dollars in the form of tax revenues and put it in a rainy day account, and then when we build enough dollars, do that project.
Which could cost a lot more by then.
By then. And frankly, at the end of the day, I think you make a better decision on what to do with your money than we do. So until we absolutely, positively needed it, we didn't ask for it. We have capability to bond about $250 million in this county. This puts us up in the neighborhood of a total of $5 million. We're basically debt-free prior to this particular issue, and I think we'll probably resolve this debt fairly quickly.
If you're just joining us on the Morning Magazine, welcome. In Part 1, we're visiting with Wood County Board Chairman Lance Pliml. Our friends from RCCA Media are here as well, and all month long you can view that on their website or on your favorite cable channel. But another issue that came up during the last county board meeting had to do with UW Marshfield and their plans for upgrading their facility and wanting Wood County to be a part of that. Your thoughts on that, and where is that going?
Very much part of that discussion as it relates to an educated workforce.
Sure.
We know that there's jobs available. We know that we have some premier medical facilities within our own county, and we know that we need to train people. We have science labs up at UW Marshfield that were built 50, 60 years ago.
Wow.
And really haven't changed since. And obviously the technology has changed. One of the thoughts is that if we can educate those people in a state-of-the-art facility and they tend to stay in the area, that we then probably have those people as prospective employees for those employers that need them. We've identified the fact that we have that brain drain, that those young, bright people go elsewhere for job opportunities. But we've also identified the fact that they often stay where they are educated. So if we have the opportunity to educate them here at a high level and to provide those employees to those employers in this area, and we have a lot of them in the healthcare industry, we're going to be dollars ahead at the end of the day. Two-year college UW campuses are somewhat unique and different than the four-year campuses. The four-year campuses, these are general statements, are owned by the state. The two-year campuses are owned by cities, counties, or both. In our case, we own the physical plant, the county and the city of Marshfield up in Marshfield. We have not made, other than small capital improvement project investments, we have not really made a large investment in that campus in many, many, many years. They're looking at a project here that, let's say, is somewhere in the neighborhood of $8 million. The vast majority of that raised through private donations, alumni, large donors, people who have concern, have lived in this community forever and want to see it thrive. They've asked for a commitment from the city of Marshfield for $1 million and from the county for $1 million. And $1 million is a lot of money. But when you look at the fact that we haven't made an improvement like that or a build-out like that in many, many, many years, and I'll go back to the science labs for 50 years, and you divide that million by 50, it's a pretty small investment on an annual basis to have that type of facility in our community. So we had a presentation from UW Marshfield at the last meeting. Our county board, as part of next month's meeting, will actually tour that facility so they can actually see what is there. And then I assume that a resolution will come down shortly, either in favor of or to deny that funding. My personal perspective on this is I always like to see us participate in those educational opportunities, especially one like this where the price tag from a county's perspective is not that high, and that the community has bought into at such a high level from that private funding source.
Well, those two-year campuses are becoming more and more popular because they're very economical. Someone can go to school for their first 2 years of college close to home and save money, and then go to another campus to complete their their degree.
Not only are they close to home, some of the tech schools and some of these, are starting to develop some articulation agreements where you can finish your 4-year degree at that 2-year campus.
Right.
Which to me makes total sense. If the only thought is, we don't have, first of all, classes are available online right now. And since you can do anything online,
right.
even from Madison, why can't we provide those classrooms and that online capability right in Marshfield, and have you finish up there? That would be my first thought. And keep those people here, not have them travel, and not have them come out with $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 of debt, when they reach that end of the road. It also makes classes available, which is another part of the problem. It's very difficult to actually graduate in 4 years today. And it's not because of the student, it's because of the way they schedule classes and the availability as such. So, if by developing facilities, if by getting maybe more highly qualified professors or instructors, I've heard that as an argument sometimes, and I think the people we have are excellent, but if we need more, then maybe we do that, because at the end of the day, if we can keep them here, we probably retain them and move them into the workforce.
At the beginning of our segment, I was talking about the weather. I would imagine Wood County's budget or its winter facilities have been taking a hit this year. Let's talk a little bit, because I know before we went on the air you went and did some checking. But how is Powers Bluff, which is a very popular area, it draws people from both outside and inside Wood County. How has that been affected by this crazy winter we've been having?
It's been negatively affected. I bet at the end of the day they're going to say that average temperatures this winter were probably pretty close to average, but we had a very cold November and we're having a very cold February. We had a portion of that in the middle where the snow melted, which really hindered our operations up there. But at the end of the day, we have a state-of-the-art facility up there. We have 3 tubing sessions that are available.
And which is a growing sport.
They've improved the facility this past summer. We are open. We have been open every weekend, but we're open this weekend, obviously, and they're ready to go. They want to see you up there. But the thing that really hurts us is weather-related. And sometimes if it's 20 or 30, 35 below with the wind chills, that always seems to happen on Saturday or Sunday recently, which really affects our attendance up there.
Well, it looks
this weekend's looking good.
Yeah, this weekend looks like a good weekend if you want to go play in the snow.
Yeah, and I would encourage people to go up there and see some of the improvements made, see what's done. It's a great family opportunity, but I can tell you right now that revenues have been down as opposed to an average year up there, and it's been weather related. But right now, this weekend especially, it looks like we're going to have good weather. We have improved facilities up there, and it's a great way to get the family together and go have some fun in a very economical manner.
Yeah, I mean, it's very inexpensive for the tubing sessions.
Yeah, personally, the snowmobile trails have not been open.
Yes, and Lance, his snow machine has been stuck in his garage. You haven't even gotten out on one of our frozen lakes.
No, it's not made it off the trailer yet. But that's another one. Snowmobiling and those winter opportunities are huge in our area. They bring a lot of tourists to this area. It's frustrating when I sit over at I-39 or when I drive down to my summer home and I'm crossing I-90 and every car has a snowmobile trailer behind it, because everybody in the Midwest, Wisconsin, Indiana, Iowa, Illinois, they're all going to northern Wisconsin or the UP, and they have had a banner winter. We have not. So, although my highway commissioner will be yelling at me for saying this, and I'm going to see him in a couple of minutes, I'm praying for snow.
Okay. Well, I'll let you go have that meeting with the highway commissioner, and we appreciate the monthly update, and we'll talk again next month.
Thanks, Carl.
Wood County Board Chairman Lance Pliml wrapping up part 1 of today's edition of the Morning Magazine. As always, it's brought to you on AM 1320 and WFHR.com by Comfort Air.